Hello and welcome once again to the Red Sisterhood Movement radio show on Spiritual Radiance Radio. We are so happy to have you again, and I've totally lost track of like what episode we're on. I think it's possibly episode 5 or episode 6. What do you think, Helen? Am I about right?
No, we just get carried away and go. So bear with us. We don't even know what episode we're on, but you probably know more than us if you're listening. Yeah, cool. So today's episode, we're going to be exploring and talking about the topic of truth. And it's something that I think that at least for the last couple of years we've been intensively speaking about, and I think to start with, it's important to differentiate what we mean by the word truth. So you might think truth as in factual, black and white truth, and that is, yes, a truth. But in terms of when we're talking about truth, it's more about our own truths. So what is a truth to me isn't necessarily a truth to Lisa. It's due to my own perception, my beliefs, my experience in the world, and we all have our own individual truths. And yeah, anyway, before I go off ranting, do you want to speak about anything while we're introducing the topic, Lise?
Well, I just got, you know what I'm like. I'm like a shiny new penny, and I'm like, where is it? Where is it? So obviously I've come on today on a different one. So I'm in as Lisa, and for those of you that listen to this on the radio, some of you catch it later on our page. Helen's in as me, so I'm just giving Helen the opportunity to be herself. Yay!
And if anyone's listening on the radio, they'll be like, what the heck are you talking about?
Her video name was as me, bless her. Yeah, so just to go off of what Helen said is speaking your truth is about finding your voice from deep within your gut. When I don't speak my truth, I get a real energetic pull there, as if like my body is reminding me that I'm disaligned to what I'm saying or thinking or feeling, and it feels physical for me, which I've only realised the more I've worked with energy. Do you experience the same?
Yeah, and I think I can't even remember what we were talking about one day last week. We were talking about when you were a kid, or you'd tell a little fib and stuff, and like you, like even then as a child, I would definitely feel it like in my tummy going, I'm telling a fib, even if it was like something stupid, like I'd hid a rubber from my brother and I was like, I don't know where it is. Like it's like my body is going, you are not speaking your truth, and it's like so uncomfortable. And I think that's it, is that maybe as an adult, when we recognize the communications from our body a bit more and we recognize the energy, and maybe I would say I'm definitely living more in my truths now. So when I'm out of alignment, or I see an opportunity to challenge my truth, it's not very comfortable, because I feel like maybe I'm just much more aware of it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword as well, isn't it? Because when I'm not speaking my truth, I get that really guttural pull. But also, you know, we're both really honest about whatever we came here to work on. It's not a quick fix. You're going to be working on that the whole time. So as a huge recovering people pleaser, when I initially went against my people pleasing, and sometimes it still happens with certain people that might remind me of someone in authority, or when I go against that people pleasing and I go into my truth, I can sometimes feel the same uncomfortability, because it's a break from a leaning into an old negative pattern. I hate negative, a whole unwanted pattern.
Yeah, it's familiar. It's familiarity. Is that the word? Goodness, it's familiar, that word, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's right, is that actually what we've probably been highlighted intensely in the last 2 years with the global pandemic is that everybody's truths and how they view the world and what they believe to be truth, is different. And something that I know that we've been speaking about, and something that we openly share between us, is that respecting other people's truths as their truths. But equally, it's okay to challenge that in a really nice way. And just because something is my truth doesn't mean to say that that's best serving me. It's just how I have grown and developed information of the world from my experience, from my beliefs, from my upbringing, from all these things, that actually this feels like something I believe to be true. There was a time that I believed Santa to be true. That was my truth. And there may have been a child in my class at the same age that believed Santa to not be real, and that was their truth. And again, great example, because we can respect each other's truths. We don't have to be like, you're right, I'm wrong, you're right, I'm wrong, that kind of thing. But equally, as I've grown, that truth's changed. And that's okay, because my view of the world's different, my knowledge is different. And actually, as we do that, I'm constantly searching and challenging my own truths to ensure that they're serving me to the best of my ability right now.
Yeah. And we're both very open and honest about that, aren't you? We love to be challenged, we love to be triggered, and I think we did a massive rant on that in the last episode, actually. Because
can I just say, you're clearly pointing out to the universe, like, challenge us and trigger us. We love to be challenged, we love to be triggered. No, we don't love it, we're open to it. Do not tell the universe we love it, it's going to give us more of that.
We've had enough challenges over the last 2 years. We want to live in alignment and flow. But no, what you said there is really, really important, because your truth does change as you grow and evolve. And somebody put a post out, I think a couple of days ago, about contradictions, and how they'd given themselves a really hard time because two things they'd said close together were contradictory. And then they were like, I'm human, I am going to have contradictions and conflictions, because how we feel on one day is different to how we feel on the other day. And we know that when we are in a trigger point, when we hit a point of overwhelm, we always lean into our unwanted programming, because that's our safe space, that's the comfortable zone. So it's being kind to ourselves as well, and knowing that your truth will change, and sometimes your truth will change daily. Because if you're in a good place, you're going to see the world a whole lot differently to if you've got up, stubbed your toe, dropped your teeth, fallen out the house, been late, maybe hit a bird. Your truth
just an average day in Lisa's life. Yeah, I think you touched on something really important there about like truth changing, and what it brought up for me was this whole kind of cancel culture that we're seeing, where things are surfacing on social media from 10 years ago when somebody was a teenager and they've said something, and I'm kind of like, it's not okay to say hurtful things, and I'm absolutely by no means saying that it's okay, and I'm not giving an example here. But what I am saying is that as we grow and we learn more about life, like, come on, I know for a fact if some of the stuff I said as a teenager was plastered all over social media to hold me accountable for the rest of my entire life, I'd be mortified, and never because I've come from a place of viciousness or vindictiveness, but just from a place of naivety and inexperience of life and lack of wisdom. Yeah, that. And I think if something was to resurface that I'd said, just like we're seeing in the media and stuff, I think we have to hold our hands up and be like, I'm not that person anymore. Like, I've grown, like, I can apologize for my inexperience and naivety and being a blooming teenager in the world. But actually, how can we tear somebody apart for what was their truth, something that they've shared from a place that they were in?
Yeah, we live in this world that we all spout kindness and forgiveness, but then when somebody has either a video resurfaced when they were younger, or somebody that's below the age of 23, where we know 23 is that last stage of development. Before 23, you are an idiot, you say stupid things, you lean into your pain points. If someone had recorded some of the things that I said at 23, not only would I be mortified and embarrassed, I would be deeply ashamed, because I was an idiot. I was an idiot that had serious mental health problems, dealt with it with drink. I wouldn't even like to think some of the things that I said at that age, out of stupidity and pain and jealousy and fear. But that's not who I am now. And it's taken me a long time to send love and forgiveness back to that younger version of myself and distance from the shame, because shame doesn't serve us now. We've done laws on shame, I'll stop ranting about it, but it's really difficult, this cancel culture. And I think it makes us hide from our own truth because we're frightened that we're going to say the wrong thing. I mean, we are, because our mouths have no filter, but they do have a filter. We just say it as it is. But I think there's a lot of people that daren't be completely themselves for fear of that judgment or saying the wrong thing.
100%. And even now, when I'm so comfortable, like you say, with just being in my truth and sharing that, and also being okay with the fact that tomorrow something might challenge that truth and I see it differently. Even now, when I go on my Facebook and I look at my memories from a year ago or 2 years ago, I'm like, geez, wow, I understand that so differently now, or that's not my perspective on that thing anymore. Or wow, I can't even believe that that was a truth for me at one time. And I think it's that. I think we have to be okay with growing and changing and seeing things differently. But equally, on the opposite side, is having strength in our truths too. So not be flimsy, so that they can be challenged and somebody can give us some loose facts and we change our truth based on someone else's opinion and stuff like that. Like staying in our truth and feeling into it, like you know in your gut when you know something's a truth for you. But actually being open to, as we evolve and develop as people, that might change. So it's that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Can I ask if you got a Care Bear t-shirt on? Oh, that's
I may have a Care Bear t-shirt on.
I am so jealous right now of your Care Bear t-shirt. That is the coolest thing ever. Sorry to everyone that's listening, but I am a massive Care Bears fan. I wish we had more Care Bears in the world. Share Bears. And Helen's got the most amazing Care Bear t-shirt on.
Well, this is my truth.
But you know what I find really interesting, and this has been really apparent to me. I've been binging something on Netflix, which is really rare for me, but the 20-minute episodes, and I thought, do you know what? I do need to turn off sometimes more. And obviously characters evolve, but these characters are not particularly very nice people, but they are completely, totally not themselves. But they are also really gorgeous people. Their truth is they've lived a very privileged life, and they've got whatever they've wanted, and that's how they see the world. So they're so confident being who they are, even if who they are is not the nicest person. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, in England we're very, I guess it's kind of a little bit a culture thing to people please in England, or maybe it's a class thing, I'm not sure. But I thought, wow, these people are really endearing and you love them for exactly who they are, even for those parts of themselves that aren't particularly very nice. And we've all got that. We've all got parts of ourselves that aren't particularly very nice, just in a different way, because balance and humanness. But for most of my life, thankfully, obviously, when I started my personal development journey, that changed. But it is constantly a pendulum of leaning into it and coming out of it. There's no healed, as we say. It's wanting to be a nice person and people see you as a nice person, rather than being completely yourself and at moment saying, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. I don't know what that means. Or I can't think of any of the examples that come to my mind, but I've just watched it. And again, it's made me really think about truth and how they are open. Every side of themselves is out there. And it's refreshing and you love them anyway.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking when you were talking there, and I don't know if you agree, but I definitely feel when somebody is being themselves, when somebody is walking their truth. And it's kind of like a radar, like when people come to me, I can just sense it, and like I feel it in my body. And you're right, is even if somebody shows me that they're not a kind person, but I feel that is their truth, it's this kind of weird comfort in my body that they're showing me who they are. Whereas actually sometimes if people come to you and they're doing that really nice thing, because we are conditioned to be a nice person, to be viewed as a nice person, to care what people think about us, but they come to you and they are trying so hard to hide parts of themselves that they're not fond of, and they're not walking in the truth, they're doing what they're conditioned to do. They could be so nice, but my gut is going, this person isn't in truth. And I can feel that, and that can be more uncomfortable than somebody coming up in their truth and not being the nicest to people. Does that make sense?
100% makes sense. And I think it's would have been, I mean, I'm speaking for you there and I can't speak for you, I don't know if you agree, but it would have been a real trigger point for me before, because my conditioning was be perfect so that you'll be loved, be happy and positive, don't bring your downness to other people's. So everyone would always say to me, oh, you're always so happy and you're smiling all the time. And when I was around other people, it wasn't that I wasn't being genuine, because I genuinely felt happy and smiley all the time. But on my own, I couldn't stand my own company. I was exhausted, depressed, because I'd conditioned myself through others' words to be this toxic positivity. Now, I thought, and I genuinely love positivity and I believe in positivity, and I do believe there are positive things in every moment. But I also recognize that a lot of my life has been spent in that kind of toxic positivity of find the positive, because then you'll feel better. But actually, it's been a distraction from being in that uncomfortable space of thinking, I don't enjoy my own company. I don't know if that even made sense. I just went on my little waffles.
I think it's so important, because again, when I think about it, I know we teach this in our children's well-being, but when we see children and as a society we're like, sit down, be quiet, don't have an opinion, and then we teach them truths as such through school. They're taught truths like their family values, and they kind of have everything put onto them, but we never teach them about feeling into what feels like a truth for them, do we? So then obviously we grow into teenage years and we we just want to kind of blend in, don't we? We don't want to get bullied, you don't want to stick out. Teenage years are rough, man. That actually you probably don't live in your truth because you're trying to survive teenagehood. Teenagehood, that's funny. And then maybe the beginning of adulthood and that development, actually we start to recognize what our truths are. And maybe that's where people start rebelling, because they're like, it's uncomfortable and I don't know how to go. It's going, you're expected to go from one extreme to another, aren't you? Like teenagers blend in, if you stick out too much, if you have a truth that's opposing, and it goes against our brain, our biochemicals in terms of survival. Like if all of your friends in teenage years are like, I like this pink coat, and you say, oh, it's horrible, I like this green coat, like in your brain you're going to get caught out of the pack. Like how are you going to survive, that kind of thing. So actually I get why people feel safe and not sharing their truth sometimes, but imagine a world where everybody lived and walked their truth and still promoted kindness and positivity and all that wonderfulness, like, but owned who they are, like, and everybody had that individualistic thing. But thinking now, that has to start from childhood. Like we can't just go as an adult now, okay, this is my truth. Like I'm 33, I'm very comfortable in my truths now, but even now sometimes if I'm in a room with people and I know they're going to pick A and my truth is B, I still get that in my tummy, and I'm going to do it because it's my truth and that's important to me to live in my truth, but it's still not comfortable. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it's funny because you just give me an epiphany moment. I was going to talk about something yesterday, and I'll come back to that. But I don't think that my brain has that. I think maybe that my brain didn't, because when everybody went left, I would go right, and it was never a conscious thing. It was never on purpose, but my brain would never kick in to tell me. And then obviously that did happen for most of my life. I would end up being on the fringes because people would put me on the fringes. And I know we've talked where I've always said that. I think, like recently I've had this epiphany of, I think that one of my sole purpose reasons for being here is being a challenger without meaning to be, but like I genuinely think I challenge people. And I think that started from being being little, because when you're a teenager, you have branded names, don't you? That, I mean, I can't speak for teenagers now, that everybody wears. So everybody, when I was at school, had these certain types of puffer jackets, and everyone had the same ones, exact same style, just in different colours. And then I got this. I've been really careful about not naming brands here, but I got this different one that was totally different name, totally different style. And everybody loved it and wanted to wear it, but they also were like, oh no, I wouldn't want it because it's not this brand that we all have. And I just don't think my brain ever worked to make me understand that if I did this as a consequence, I probably would make myself even more weird and even more ostracized than talking about crystals and moon and energy and spirits at, that age. So whether that's just something that I haven't developed in my brain, I don't know.
That's interesting, isn't it? And it could be that something early in life taught you that it was safer to withdraw, to not be with the pack, or I don't know. It's interesting. And equally, it's really interesting how I genuinely think that is part of your soul's mission here, like you were saying about challenging, that maybe you doing that, you were doing what felt right and living in alignment from a young age. But I would I don't know, edge my bets on that being very rare.
Yeah, and I would have said at that age, there was no chance I was speaking my truth. Yeah, actually, on hindsight, looking at it through those eyes, I absolutely was. I just probably then learned that my truth made me not very likable.
And still to this day. I'm joking.
I try not to laugh because when I listened to this the other day, my laugh was like a witch's cackle, and now I'm like, but I can't not laugh and just.
Oh, brilliant. And I think this is it. I think this is a topic that we could definitely explore. But what I would say is that the important things here is learning to feel into your truth and what feels like your truth, and be respectful of other people's truths. Like we've seen over the last 2 years, like people being really disrespectful to other people's truths. And I get it, and I get when we're in fear, it's hard to even be empathetic or understanding of somebody else seeing a situation differently. But we have to always remember that every single person's life experience, beliefs, a white feather has just literally floated past my window.
Wow, that's one each today.
I know, that's so strange. We always get little things when we're recording. Anyway, got off track of it then. It's just like,
well, just to let them know, first time we recorded this Red Sisterhood, sure, my microphone decided it was, well, it wasn't my microphone. I didn't realize you could turn your microphone up. So my microphone was on quite low. And then once I realized you could turn it up, we were fine. But the first recording that we ever did, was actually sat in the same place I'm sat right now. And there were like 5 or 6 butterflies dancing around outside. And that was a brilliant show, but you just can't hear me, can you?
It was great.
That's why it was a brilliant show.
Yes, and then like about 5 minutes later, when I was talking, about 3 or 4 butterflies literally started dancing around in my garden. I was like staring at them, and we were like, "Whoa, how crazy is this?" So yeah, we've gone a bit off track there, but key takeaways about truths: living your truths, respect other people's truths, be open to having your truths challenged while still kind of remaining strong in your truths. Like, yeah, anything that you kind of think is a bit of a roundup takeaway, Lise?
Listen to your body. Like, we're so big on, the reason that we went into all things holistic is we're huge on the soul and the impact of the soul. We're huge on leaning into your humanness and your body. There is a connection there. Your mind is the kind of the mediator between your soul and your humanness, mind, body, spirit. So when you are getting these uncomfortable feelings in your body, that is your mind mediating that your soul is telling you this doesn't feel right. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Red Sisterhood Show. If you are not following us on socials, go do that, and you'll catch more of me and Lisa nattering away.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.